What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at the Alto Music in Brooklyn headquarters, and today we are here with David, singer of Ecce Shnak. Thank you for your time today.
Yes, sir, Mr. Alex. It is a great pleasure to be here.
Yeah, of course. It's so awesome to have you here. Your latest record of Metamorphosion, as I was saying before, it was the best analysis I was able to say is if Beethoven or Mozart or Bach produced a Dillinger Escape Plan record.
And my heart was a flutter like some butterfly wings. That was a wonderful compliment and a very accurate intellectual description. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, or maybe if Barney Greenway were to also do something like that, or if Barney Greenway was a conductor in like a symphony or something like that.
Who is Barney Greenway?
From Napalm Death.
Oh, holy shit.
Yeah.
That kicks ass.
Yeah. Exactly.
The silence is deafening.
Of course.
I didn't know that dude's name. But the silence is, in fact...
Excellent. What I was curious is, being that your music is so experimental, it almost seems like there's no rules or formula that you stick with, right? It's very easy to sort of try new things with your music, right?
Definitely. There are some forms, but we look at that stuff more like canoes you can jump in and out of and not spacesuits that you can't. We play around with forms in a lighter way. If you jump out of a spacesuit, your lungs collapse in the cold void. If you jump out of a canoe, you can jump into another. So the genres and the forms are like those canoes.
Yeah, I almost feel like this could cater to really anybody, because I could tell from a technical standpoint you take your music very seriously, but you also have a great sense of humor in your music as well. That seems to be very important, right?
Thank you, sir. That's a very cool thing. If it comes off that way, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
Do you have like a preconceived idea when making music, or do things happen organically and you kind of let things fall into place?
I would say these are dancers. It's a synthetic process where some things are accidental, some things faded, and some things you hear in just a funny phrase or a sound in the distance.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a little melody, or a melody will naturally have a text. And that's just two of the bazillions of elements that go into imagining a song with other people. And so it's a super interactive, multi-thingamajig process.
Yeah, I'd imagine. And like, do you sometimes like start off and like a song goes one way, but then it ends completely different than when it first started?
Absolutely. There are some arrows. Those are the coolest. But some things are real whack-em-ups. You were talking earlier about Liam Wilson, the bassist of Dillinger Escape Plan, dear friend. He whacks the shit out of metal as a part-time job. And I think of him sometimes when I work on some of these songs, because it does feel like, what the fuck is this? Other things are just arrows that fly out. But it's a kind of toss-up.
Yeah. Working with Dillinger Escape Plan, too, I mean, that has to even open your mind to new ideas on how to make your own music, right?
Absolutely. There were super amazing visionaries and are, and to, have a great hero say, like, yes, I'll take your shit at all seriously enough to even play bass on it. That's a great honor, and so that was awesome.
Yeah. What I'm curious is, because, you being the singer of the band, and, you have to worry about vocal melody or how you're going to use your voice, but then there's also lyrics. You kind of have like a secondary thing in there. Does a lyrical concept ever go along with the type of music that you play, or are lyrics like always secondary?
I think the first is right. Again, I think there's a kind of innate lyrical potential in any style, right? Like, think about how when you go into a desert with Meshuggah, and there's just this vast waterless landscape, and the dude singing is like a huge head, like a huge god.
With that
screaming
Meshuggah
with
face.
that face and the huge, massive voice. Those lyrics come from that desert, and then other times when you want to say something much more shy or light-hearted, you cast it in a different something or other. So it's a toss.
Do you like to maybe leave your lyrics open to interpretation, or is there like a message behind your music that you want to try to get the listener to be informed on?
I would say I tip toward the second, but I hope not to tip over,
Okay.
because
That's a
then
great
I
way of saying
often I'll be likely to become a douchebag if I tip over too far in that direction.
A preachy vocalist.
But I don't want to be whatever you think it is blah person either, which I think I mean, there are plenty of cool versions of that, but I personally have some message, as I guess there's a message.
Yeah, well, I'm sure if somebody asks you like what this song is about, you wouldn't hesitate to ask them. But if they told you what they got out of it, I'm sure it would be equally as fulfilling.
Right, exactly. To be able to hear anybody's response at all is an achievement and an honor. So that in that sense, yes.
Yeah. Now you have there's 7 of you in the band. You know, you're 2 away from Slipknot. So we got a Dillinger escape plan sound. We got some epic elements, and you got a Slipknot sort of choreography.
And we all wear masks.
Do you?
No,
Oh,
that's not true.
no.
But except a soul is a mask. So in that sense, we are all Slipknot.
Exactly.
We go from 0 to however many people there are. Those are all the members of Slipknot.
Yeah, or Mushroomhead or Guar or any of those guys.
The whole human species is a member of one of those bands.
Oh my god, that was the best quote in any interview I've ever heard in my life.
Well, we did it together. Alex, also known as Larry, David, also known as Larry. Have you ever met a Larry?
I've met quite a few Larrys in my life.
So have you and I. What was your question?
No, because there's 7 members of the band. What I'm curious is, I'd imagine every member brings in, like, because as I mentioned, your music is so experimental, but is there ever something in the songwriting process that has to come first? Like, do you have to lay down a rhythm first, or a melody, or some sort of, or does every song call for a new approach and every member brings in something different?
Well, the way these songs are a bit Zappa-ish in the sense of I tend to think in pretty whole forms. Like I hear the drums, guitars, the bass, the voice, the lyrics, most of it pretty totally. And so I've written most of the songs, and these musicians are performing them as profoundly kick-ass interpreters, and there's also awesome solos that they come up with, and so when it comes to coming up with the song itself, different things about it tug at you. You could hear a drum part first that has a natural guitar line implied, or the guitar line implies a voice part, either a lyric or a melody. The parts kind of imply each other, and so you have to learn to kind of jump around from one to the next.
Of course. It almost seems like you have, like, you kind of know what to go into when making music, but at the same time, the making of every song is its own experience and its own approach.
Correct, Amanda.
Yeah. And I have two more questions for you, because now you have the essence of bringing something live, and I've always said, no matter how many times you listen to a band and no matter how good they are live, seeing a band live is a completely different experience than listening to them, no matter how well you know their music. When you are playing live, do you try to execute the material exactly how people are hearing your music on the album, or do you like to intentionally maybe make the live presence a different experience than what people are getting from your album?
I think, again, I tip toward the second. But there's still... We want the songs to be recognizable, I guess. And, like, the albums. We're proud of those. But there's a very special part of the live experience, which is that there are two really awesome soprano singers that you don't hear on the albums. They are realizing and interpreting and kicking ass at all the other voices you hear me singing on the albums. And they sing them like crazy. So that's a kick-ass thing about the live performance.
Yeah.
Sarah Lynn and Chelsea, they kick ass.
Absolutely. And the final question I'd like to ask you is, this is always the most difficult question I ask every person I interview. How do you know when a song is done?
Yeah. Some of them, you see the arrow hit the target. And you say, pretty much every thing I could have possibly gotten out of this idea, in terms of all the elements you described, the drums, guitars, voice, bass, you kind of feel like you got as close as you could with that shot. Some of them are like arrows and you see that they've ended. Others are like, what the fuck is this puzzle / quicksand mess that I've gotten stuck in, and damn it, why do I have to finish it? And you fight with them. And then they're different creatures. But that's, I guess, so it's a kind of toss-up between the two.
Yeah, really. Because you incorporate so much in your music. It's like, how do you know when enough is enough, or something is too much, or something is too little?
And that's going to be a thing that will be a process. There will be changes in that regard, and that's how a musician or an artist or whoever has a funny path they take.
Of course.
So.
So before I go, I'd like to thank you so much for coming here today.
Yes,
it was
sir.
an absolute pleasure. Is there just anything else that you would like to promote with Ecce Shnak in terms of shows or new music?
Absolutely. This Saturday evening we have a concert called Schnockfest, which is taking place at a studio at 267 Wyckoff Street in Borum Hill. There are 4 other kick-ass acts from the classical hardcore and punk scene in New York City, including Miki Sawada, Mary Lou Donovan, and Tristan Kasson-Kraus, a band named Ick, a band named Dad, and our band Ecce Shnak. Finally, it's also a fundraiser for Extinction Rebellion and New Sanctuary Coalition. So we invite you to pay what you can. If you can donate $3, the monies will go to those very important organizations as a benefit. So that's the last thing I wanted to put out there.
Of course. Well, thank you so much, David.
Yes, sir, Alex.
Everybody, we are here with David of Ecce Shnak, Metamorphogon. Pick that up if you haven't already, and try to catch them on Saturday.
July 20th.
July 20th. The date just totally slipped out of my mind.
5 p.m.
Yep, 5 p.m. We'll see you next time on Heavy New York, everybody.
Thank you, Heavy New York.